Along with over 4 million people living mostly in arid and semi-arid lands, this family faces severe food insecurity after 5 seasons of severe drought in northern Kenya.
Following the mass retirement of civil servants employed in former Borno State and in an effort to cushion the effects of Nigeria's fuel subsidy removal, 76 civil servants begin training at the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria.
While celebrating the elimination of trachoma in Mali and Benin, officials say work to eradicate more neglected tropical diseases must continue.
Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
In an effort to cushion the effects of the fuel subsidy removal by President Bola Tinubu, Yobe State Governor Mai Mala Buni has approved the employment of 3,765 applicants into the state civil service. The head of the civil service, Garba Bilal, also revealed an approval has been granted to 76 civil servants of different cadres for a training at the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria following the mass retirement of civil servants employed in the former Borno State.
The rippling effects of the removal of fuel subsidy is causing the federal and state governments to come up with alternative ways of cushioning the hardship experienced by citizens. In Yobe State, apart from the provision of food palliatives to the vulnerable population, Governor Mai Mala Buni has granted approval for the employment of 2,670 applicants in the first batch, as well as another 700 personnel in the second batch. While biometric of the newly employed staff is ongoing, the governor also granted approval for employment of 375 doctors, nurses, amongst other healthcare workers.
His Excellency has also graciously approved the employment of 700 personnel into the civil service in order to ensure that the civil service is rigged for proper productivity. His Excellency has also graciously approved the employment of about 375 different cadres of personnel to man the newly established maternal and child care complex, which is named the Mama Ali Hospital.
While the state government has also approved the training of 76 workers of different cadre at Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, the beneficiaries applaud the gesture.
I'm grateful to Almighty Allah and to His Excellency for giving us this opportunity to be among the civil servants within his state. So I've been applying for a lot of programs where I will be engaged myself without sitting down at home idly.
Definitely sure we appreciate how this government is taking care of civil servants in Yobe by giving them an adequate knowledge through this training and retraining. And definitely sure we hope these people, when they go to Lagos for that training, they will come and almost disseminate what they have learned from that ASCON.
The newly employed members of staff who are holders of HND, NCE and National Diploma certificates will be trained and deployed to schools, offices, as well as hospitals across the state.
I'm now being joined on the program by the head of civil service, Yobe State, Garba Bilal. Many thanks for joining us on Africa 54.
Thank you very much. You are welcome.
We do know that manpower is key to all development aspects of every society. How has civil service supported the government of Yobe State?
Thank you very much. As you are aware, the civil service remains and will continue to remain the instrument of government for the formulation and implementation of policies, programs, and projects, leveraging on an efficient aggregation and distribution of human and material resources for an effective service delivery in every state.
And recently, the Yobe State government employed over 3,700 applicants. Do you think this will bring the succor that the state is looking for following the removal of fuel subsidy to ensure that they can maintain a particular standard of living?
Yes, indeed. The employment will give not only succor to those that have been employed, but equally to their own dependents. Because most of those that have been employed, you will find in one way or the other, they are not only fresh graduates, they are graduates that have stayed for some years and have married. They have dependents, both in terms of children, aged parents, and what have you. So if you look at it in a nutshell, definitely this employment will bring a lot of succor to those that have been employed. And the main reason for the employment is indeed to bring succor to those that have been employed.
And most civil servants employed in the former Borno state and were transferred later, their services were transferred to the Yobe state, are retiring. They're all reaching retirement age. What is the government doing to ensure this mass retirement does not affect the civil service? I mean, that's aside from the employment of close to 4,000 people.
You see, the state government has its own succession plan. So with all these mass retirements, government has a special plan in order to ensure that those that have retired from the service have those that will take over their jobs. For instance, just this month, His Excellency has approved the appointment of 8 permanent secretaries. And very soon, these permanent secretaries will be sworn in by His Excellency and they will be assigned portfolios. By this, they will go back to their respective ministries where they are assigned to, so that they, in turn, will groom the civil servants that they are working with. When we said mass retirement, it doesn't mean that the state government has no workers. We have workers, but because of the need to bring succor to our teeming graduates that have graduated from various institutions, His Excellency Honorable Mai Malabuni, in his usual magnanimity, he is a man, as I've said time without number, and I will continue to say it, is a man with a human heart. He has the feeling of his people at heart, and that was why he said, let us take at least 5 degree stroke HND holders from the 178 political wards we have in the state. And at the same time, take at least also 5 NC graduates as well as 5 national diploma holders. And as I've said it earlier, you see, this employment predates even the fuel subsidy era. The subsidy era was removed during the after the inaugural speech of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we were doing these promotions even before. But immediately the fuel subsidy was removed, and the hardship that Nigerians started to feel or go through, His Excellency asks us to equally review what we have done before in order to accommodate this number of applicants that I've told you. And as I've said earlier, they have started their biometric exercise and immediately they are through. Another batch of 700, comprising of 250 still degree stroke HND holders, will equally move and start their own biometric exercise. All these things are being done in order to reposition the civil service for effective service delivery.
And it's one thing to employ people, is another thing to be able to pay their salaries at the end of the month, not taking away from anything that the Yobe State government is doing. But what is the state doing, looking inwards to shore up its own resources without the dependence on the center to be able to pay salaries of all these, civil servants and other workers?
As you are aware, some of these staff that are employed, there are some that have equally retired from the service. I do get me. as I've said, we have a succession plan. We have people that have retired after attaining 35 or 60 years, and there are people who have equally retired voluntarily from the service. So they are only removed from the payroll, but their salaries are also inbuilt in the state payroll. Do you get me? So because of that, we will not have any problem. Apart from what the state government is getting from the federation account, the state has its own mechanism of generating its own internally generated revenue. It may interest you to note that His Excellency, since assumption of duty, he has not owed any areas of civil servant salary. Not only that, all allowances of civil servants are paid as at when due. In addition to that also, all civil servants that have retired, we have a special migration mechanism where immediately you are leaving the service, instead of you being paid your own salary, you will migrate into pension. As you retire, just instead of maybe staying idle doing nothing, the subsequent month after retirement, you will get your pension.
Right.
This is how the state has been operating.
Right. Many thanks again, Mr. Gabra Bilal, Head of Civil Service, Yobe State in Northeast Nigeria. Thank you for joining us again on Africa 54.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm grateful.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, with fuel prices spiking, resourceful Nigerians seek cheaper and cleaner running generators. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Nigeria's weak electric grid had forced many of its citizens to rely on gasoline-fueled generators for power. But the president's controversial removal of a costly fuel subsidy in May saw gasoline prices triple, aspiring Nigerians to switch to generators fueled by cheaper and cleaner propane. Gibson Emeka reports from Abuja, Nigeria.
Rashid Ayodeji, a lawyer in Abuja, is one of more than 10,000 Nigerians who have switched to generator powered by liquefied petroleum gas. The switch to LPG, also known as propel, is in response to the cost of gasoline, which have tripled since authority ended fuel subsidy in May. Ayodeji says that powering his generator with cooking gas is less expensive.
I was skeptical at first, so I said, let me just give it a try, because at least I'm someone I'm not resistant to change. Even with my experience so far with this 1 week, my fuel expenses has been cut by 50% for now. And with the gas I still have left, I'm very sure it's still cut up to 60%.
In 2013, Philip Obim started importing hybrid carburetor that convert gasoline generator to run on LPG. For years, demand was low. A decade later, however, his sales reached a new peak. He says that following the fuel subsidy removal, he sold more than 10,000 units in less than 3 weeks.
The product is selling like wildfire. That is because of the cost of petrol, which has moved from 190 or 180 to 550 or 540 per liter across Nigeria. You call them hybrid in the sense that they allow you to run either on petrol or on cooking gas, LPG. Essentially, you have to pull out the existing carburetor from a generator and install the hybrid carburetor. Then you plug in a gas cylinder with a regulator, of course, and then you power up your generator. It's as simple as that.
Some people are concerned about the safety of using cooking gas in generators that were originally designed to work with gasoline.
We've not had a single case of explosion arising from someone using our hybrid carburetor to run generators.
If you must go into it, you must apply, as in you must be very, very careful, put so much measure in place, make sure that your generator is in good condition, that it doesn't have to have a kind of leakages, or the plug head must be there. That is the most important one. You must keep your cylinder very far from the generator.
Authorities from Lagos State are also assessing the safety of the product. Gibson Emeka for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Internationally renowned battery dance company, famous for captivating choreography and breathtaking performances, has returned to Nigeria with performances and workshops in Lagos and Abuja. Organizers say the aim is to engage the youth in creativity and team building through the art form of modern dance. Channels TV correspondent Kelly Egiga reports.
What's happening right now is inside your heart and onto the stage.
It's an evening of breathtaking choreography and compelling narratives. The event is put together by a New York-based battery dance company, which is visiting Nigeria for the Dance to Connect program, with support from the U.S. Mission in partnership with the Society for the Performing Arts in Nigeria. Dance to Connect aims to promote cultural exchange.
That showcased great talent from New York as well as great talent from Lagos. And what a wonderful mixture of humanity coming together for a common purpose, the universal language of dance. It also shows that the power of the young people here in Lagos is truly amazing, because we normally have 5 days at least of a workshop. Here we had 2 days, and in that 2 days, the young people came together and created something of their own. And we're able to present it authentically and with great talent on stage in front of a huge audience. So this says a lot, really.
The major collaborators speak on the takeaways of the program as the push for more involvement of the grassroots.
The cultural exchange with the battery dance, it's quite an awesome one, because we are known for our indigenous dances, and meeting the battery dance shows an opportunity to the kids how they can infuse other dance styles with what they've learned, what they are used to, and it's also an opportunity for them to share what they know with an adult, a professional in the industry, and they young ones learning the craft of dance and see the possibilities of how dance can actually be the language where they communicate with other people across the globe.
The Dance to Connect initiative offers free workshops and performances in Lagos and Abuja for emerging dance artists, instructors, and stage lighting professionals, focusing on contemporary dance techniques and cultural exchange.
It's time for a short break. As we do, remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. And still to come, with a focus on the history of Mozambique, a 43-year-old photographer takes the prize for contemporary African photography.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Vincent McCory in Washington. The World Health Organization recently certified that the countries of Benin and Mali had eliminated trachoma as a public health problem, the 5th and 6th African country to do so. As viewers Ken Faraba reports, while the Carter Center is celebrating the milestone in Mali, its work in eliminating and eradicating neglected tropical diseases continues.
The leading cause of preventable blindness in the world. And
the Carter Center was already a decade into its fight against guinea worm globally, when former President Jimmy Carter and his global nonprofit took on another neglected tropical disease in the African nation of Mali. Kelly Callahan is the director of the Carter Center's Trachoma Control Program.
25 to 50% of the children between the ages of 1 and 9 in all areas of Mali suffered from the beginning stages of this disease.
It was a statistic Callahan says troubled Carter.
The Hilton Foundation asked President Carter and the Carter Center would we be willing to consider working on sanitation and water to combat this disease called trachoma in Mali and Niger?
The Carter Center set a goal of eliminating the disease in both countries.
For eyes, no trichiasis.
Trachoma can be transmitted through infected discharge from the eyes and nose.
This disease is preventable. A bacterial infection that stems from access or lack of access to water and sanitation, poor living conditions, socioeconomically stressed populations.
Since 1998, the Carter Center and its partners have funded and staffed programs with host nations to develop strategies that both treat and prevent infections, even during Mali's recent armed conflict. The Carter Center believes its program in Mali has helped avert blindness in more than 5 million people, and the antibiotics used to combat trachoma also help prevent infant mortality.
The elimination of trachoma as a public health problem in Mali is no less than Herculean.
Sadi Musa, the Carter Center's senior representative in Mali, believes the success of his organization's trachoma program could boost efforts to combat other neglected tropical diseases like guinea worm.
This also will help us, with donors, to show them that we are serious in what we are doing, and we can convince them to get more resources.
And we heard that President Carter was just thrilled beyond belief. So we're very excited that he knows.
Callahan says while Mali's elimination milestone is important, the Carter Center's work in Africa is far from over.
We work in 5 countries, including Mali. Those 5 countries have the worst known trachoma in the world.
The World Health Organization says trachoma remains in 23 African countries, and approximately 105 million people on the continent live in areas at high risk for infection. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News.
Let's go over to Mozambique now to meet a talented photographer whose goal is to put the history of the country in the spotlight. The 43-year-old contemporary African photography winner fell in love with the camera at a young age and started to document stories about Africa and its history. Find out about who she is in this next report.
Mozambican photographer whose contemporary artwork gained her a Contemporary African Photography Prize is using the win to highlight the country's colonial past through her family history. While trying to show how she finds inspiration for her photography, 43-year-old Yasmin Ford weaves through the capital, Maputo, recollecting memories about her family by taking pictures of buildings and streets that reminds her how her father, a Portuguese soldier, and her mother, a local woman, met during the height of the Portuguese occupation in Mozambique.
So this is one of the places that appears in my work. It is where my father grew up and did his military training. They used to be in this square for the military parade singing.
In her latest work, titled This is a Story About My Family, which awarded her the international prize, Ford uses collagen to juxtapose the past and the present, starting with her Portuguese father, then layering her face on top of his to show facial resemblance.
In this work, I tell a story about my father, a Portuguese soldier that comes to Mozambique with his mom and dad and lived here many years and went to the army. That's why we have a picture of him in the army suit. He lived in town. That's why we have the buildings on his face.
The aim of her work is to dissect the effects of colonialism and migration on Africans.
I think she's a very interesting photographer, doing an excellent work portraying diverse aspects of Mozambican culture.
With the international recognition, Ford is hoping to travel her work all over the world and also exhibit into bigger galleries and be known for documenting African people and their history.
According to UNICEF, over 4 million people in Kenya face severe food insecurity. VOA's Omari Kaseko visited a family impacted by 5 seasons of severe droughts in the north.
Hawa Aden's desperate efforts to get medical attention for her grandson led her to this referral hospital in Wajir, Kenya. She's been to several other health facilities, but because she lost everything due to drought, Adena says she cannot afford medical care in the capital city.
I have been told this child has a swollen liver and I should take him to Nairobi. But I don't have money to take him to Nairobi. We can barely afford breakfast for the children.
Over 30 million people in the Horn of Africa face threats to their livelihood as a result of a climate crisis, mass displacement, and prolonged conflict. According to the United Nations, northern Kenya is facing a prolonged drought.
The main problem currently we are facing was delayed presentation. They come in advanced stage where minimal can be done.
Abdul Karim Abey brought his child to Wajir Hospital.
We brought our sick child and we left 5 other children at home, and no one is with them. We came by our own means, and luckily on our way we found an ambulance that was carrying a sick person. They brought us to the hospital where we got help.
Abey says he has not yet lost a family member, but the situation is growing.
Water trucks come once every 3 weeks, but the water we use is salty and cannot be used for drinking. We can't do anything unless God gives us rain and His mercy.
Dr. Yusuf says malnutrition is prevalent.
In an average normal day, about 30 to 40% of our world is malnutrition. Now where we have drought, during floods, during extreme cases, we get a huge number, close to 20 cases of malnutrition in the world.
Nuria Mumin brought her son to this hospital.
I came here because my child was very sick. He had difficulty breathing. He lacks nutrients and he doesn't breastfeed well. I traveled from Bajaja for 2 hours. This child is like this because he lacks nutrients.
After years of little rain, much of the Horn of Africa has faced torrential downpours in the spring of 2023, resulting in flash flooding and additional deaths. Omari Kaseko, VOA News.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Do remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.